Darren and Malik live 12 minutes apart in the same part of Columbus, Ohio. Both drive midsize sedans with fading paint. Both shop at the same Kroger. Both make enough money to look stable from the outside. Darren is 34. He works as a logistics coordinator for a regional medical supplier. His salary is $67,400 a year. He leaves for work at 6:40 every morning because traffic on Interstate 70 adds exactly 19 minutes after 7 o'clock. Malik is 43. He manages inventory systems for a commercial flooring company. His salary is $71,800 a year. Slightly higher. Not life-changing. But their apartments feel completely different. Darren checks his banking app before ordering takeout. Every time, his paycheck lands, then disappears into 6 directions immediately. Credit cards, student loans, car payment, minimums, interest. Malik still budgets carefully, but his money has space around it now. Margin, delay between earning and panic. 3 years earlier, they looked almost identical financially. Today, they do not. Hey, I'm Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about the hidden math underneath ordinary financial decisions. If you enjoy videos that feel more like peer review than motivation, subscribe. It's probably the highest return you'll get from few minutes today. Because Darren keeps asking himself one question he can never answer cleanly. How much of his future already belongs to someone else? Today, we're going to follow both of them through the exact same economy. The same rent increases, the same grocery inflation, the same salaries, and see why everything changes after debt finally disappears. Not emotionally, structurally. Because most personal finance advice talks about debt payoff like a discipline problem. It is actually a cash flow ownership problem. The industry obsesses over credit scores while ignoring what happens after the monthly payments stop existing. That's what this is. Let's start with Darren's numbers. Darren's after-tax income averages $4,388 monthly after health insurance and retirement deductions. His rent is $1,425. Utilities average $211. Groceries run $518. Gasoline and commuting cost $312. His car payment is $468 monthly at 6.9% interest. He still owes $14,600. Then the real compression starts. He carries $23,400 across 3 credit cards. Average interest rate, 24.7%. Minimum payments total $520 monthly. Roughly $380 of that disappears directly into interest charges. Gone immediately. Not reducing balances meaningfully, not building ownership, not creating future value. Just friction. Then there are the student loans. $28,000 remaining. Monthly payment $229. Total debt obligations every month, $1,217. That number matters more than his salary. Because $1,217 invested monthly at an 8% annual return becomes approximately $222,000 after 10 years. After 20 years, it becomes roughly $716,000. That is the real comparison. Darren is not buying flexibility with that money. He is buying time for old purchases. He is not funding investments. He is funding decisions already made years earlier. The average person tracks balances. Almost nobody tracks flow direction. Across the remaining life of his debts, Darren will pay approximately $26,100 in total interest alone if he continues current payment schedules. That $26,100 never purchased groceries, never reduced stress, never produced compound growth. It simply existed because time passed while balances remained unpaid. And debt creates secondary costs people rarely calculate. Darren contributes only enough to his employer retirement plan to capture half the available company match. He delays medical appointments. He keeps a $2,000 emergency fund because higher liquidity feels psychologically safer than aggressive payoff. All rational decisions individually. Collectively expensive. His monthly cash flow is technically positive by around $200 most months, but one unexpected car repair collapses the entire structure immediately. That is why debt feels heavier than spreadsheets suggest. It removes recovery speed. A financially stable person absorbs surprises. Darren negotiates with them. And here is the hidden part. The $1,217 is not the true cost. The true cost is what that money could have become if it belonged to him instead of his past. This is what we should call the debt tax. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. 3 years earlier, Malik's numbers looked disturbingly similar. $41,000 in total consumer debt. 2 credit cards above 22% interest. A truck loan. A personal loan used to consolidate an older credit card balance that quietly grew back afterward. He was making payments across 5 accounts simultaneously and still watching balances barely move. Then, he switched strategies completely. Not motivation, structure. He used the debt avalanche method, highest interest rate first, while maintaining minimum payments everywhere else. Behavioral economists sometimes criticize avalanche repayment because smaller psychological wins arrive slower. But mathematically, it minimizes interest leakage fastest. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Consumer Affairs found that borrowers using structured high-interest prioritization reduced repayment costs by meaningful margins compared to balance-focused sequencing under similar income conditions. For Malik, the difference ended up being around $4,300 saved compared to the snowball method. That mattered because he redirected every efficiency gain immediately. First, he sold the truck and bought a used Honda Accord with cash, plus a small credit union loan. Payment dropped from $612 to $214. Then he automated every minimum payment the day after payday. No decision fatigue. Every extra dollar targeted the highest rate balance automatically. Tax refunds went directly toward principal. Overtime pay disappeared into balances before lifestyle expansion could absorb it. And something strange started happening around month 11. Progress accelerated. The first credit card disappeared. Then the second balance collapsed faster because the old payment rolled into the next account. Then, the personal loan vanished. Each elimination created more attack power. That is the stacking effect most people underestimate. Debt repayment compounds psychologically before it compounds financially. Then came the exact moment everything changed. Thursday night, October 14th, 9:17 p.m. Malik submitted the final payment on his remaining loan balance, $1,832.14. No celebration dinner, no champagne, just silence. Because for the first time in almost 2 decades, none of next month's income already belonged somewhere else. The following month, he redirected the entire freed cash flow deliberately. Not eventually, immediately. First, he built a 6-month emergency reserve totaling $18,000. Then, he increased his 401k contribution to capture the full employer match 6%. After that, he opened a Roth IRA and began maxing annual contributions, IRA. The current 2025 limit is $7,000 yearly. Then, additional money flowed into a taxable brokerage account invested primarily in low-cost total market index funds. Total redirected monthly amount, approximately $1,100. At an 8% annualized return, $1,100 invested monthly grows to roughly $201,000 after 10 years. After 20 years, it approaches $653,000. Same city, similar income. Different flow direction, and the compounding effect spread beyond investments. Malik stopped carrying credit card balances entirely. His insurance premiums decreased slightly because his credit profile improved. He negotiated better terms during a home rental renewal because his liquidity position looked stronger. Money started reducing future costs instead of creating them. That is the real turning point after debt payoff, not the emotional relief. The ownership transfer. Debt changes cognition before it changes math. That part rarely gets discussed. A 2019 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences tracked households after major debt relief interventions and found clinical anxiety symptoms dropped from 78% of participants to 53% afterward. Not because income suddenly exploded, because cognitive bandwidth returned. Researchers at Princeton University have also repeatedly shown that financial strain reduces mental processing capacity in measurable ways. Scarcity consumes attention. The brain begins prioritizing immediate threat management over long-term optimization. That is why Darren spends 40 minutes comparing grocery prices, but avoids increasing retirement contributions. His brain is solving for stability first. Every major decision filters through one silent calculation. What happens if income drops for even 2 months? That question shapes everything. Whether he changes jobs, whether he negotiates salary aggressively, whether he risks moving cities, whether he takes time off. Debt turns uncertainty into danger, and that psychological compression creates invisible career limits. Malik noticed this almost immediately after payoff. 6 months after becoming debt-free, he declined a higher-paying operations role requiring 70-hour workweeks and instead accepted a lower-stress systems position with stronger retirement benefits and remote flexibility twice weekly. 3 years earlier, he could not have made that decision. His payments were too dependent on uninterrupted income flow. That is the hidden freedom people mislabel as peace of mind. It is decision expansion. Debt narrows the future into survival-compatible options. Paid-off debt reopens the map. Step 1 is not motivation. It is visibility. List every debt balance, interest rate, minimum payment, and remaining term in one place, not mentally, physically. Most people dramatically underestimate total interest exposure because balances feel static while interest behaves dynamically. Darren originally believed his debt problem was about $40,000. The real number was over $67,000 once future interest costs were included. That distinction matters, because clarity changes behavior faster than guilt does. Step 2 is interest prioritization. Highest rate first. Always. A 24% credit card balance mathematically outpaces almost every guaranteed investment return available to ordinary households. If a card charges 24.7% interest, paying it off is effectively generating a risk-free 24.7% return. That is the comparison. Suppose someone owes $8,000 on a credit card at 24% interest with a $200 minimum payment. At minimum pace, payoff takes more than 5 years and costs roughly $5,000 in interest. Add just $150 extra monthly, and the timeline drops to around 2 years while saving thousands in interest leakage. Small accelerations matter disproportionately, because interest compounds against you exactly the way investments compound for you. Step 3 is cash flow capture immediately after payoff. This is where most people accidentally reverse progress. The moment a debt disappears, the old payment amount must receive a new assignment within days, not months later after lifestyle expansion absorbs it. That redirection order matters. First, capture the full employer retirement match in a 401 kick. In 2025, employee contribution limits are $23,500 annually, but the match is the priority because it produces immediate return on contribution. Second, build an emergency reserve targeting 3 to 6 months of necessary expenses. Third, maximize Roth IRA contributions where eligible. The 2025 contribution limit remains $7,000 annually for individuals under age 50. Fourth, begin taxable investing automatically. Automation matters because behavioral drift is real. People rarely lose financial progress dramatically. They leak it gradually. Step 4 is preventing payment replacement behavior. This is the pattern where eliminated debt quietly becomes substituted debt. The car gets upgraded. Vacation financing appears. Furniture installments return. The monthly obligation survives even after the original balance dies. That is why the real goal is not becoming debt-free temporarily. The goal is preserving ownership of monthly cash flow permanently, because $1,200 redirected monthly at an 8% annual return becomes approximately $219,000 after 10 years. After 20 years, it exceeds $700,000. That projection is not fantasy. It is ordinary compounding applied consistently over time. You did not need a windfall. You needed the interest drag to stop and the redirect to be intentional. In year one, Darren and Malik still looked similar from the outside. Same grocery stores, same apartments, same salaries within a few $1,000s. The gap was mostly invisible. By year 10, it stops being invisible. Malik's redirected investments approached $200,000. Darren, still servicing rolling balances and restarting occasional debt cycles, owns dramatically less despite working just as hard. Then year 20 arrives. Now the difference exceeds $500,000. Not because Malik became a millionaire entrepreneur, not because Darren failed morally, because one person eventually regained ownership of monthly cash flow while the other continued renting his future from past decisions. That is the part personal finance conversations often flatten into slogans. The gap is not income. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's cash flow direction sustained long enough for compounding to notice. And compounding notices everything, especially delay. Because every month debt survives, two things happen simultaneously. Interest keeps charging from one direction while investment growth fails to arrive from the other. That double effect matters more than most people realize. So if you are watching this as a Darren, the important number is not your balance alone. It is the total future value of the payments still leaving your life every month. That is the internal calculation that changes everything. Not what debt costs you today. What staying in debt keeps your money from becoming later.